This is Fam Electric Ghost, and this is our continuing series of song deconstructions. We're going to talk about the song Consummate Creep. This is a song that's in the style of a song I wrote like a year ago called When a Miss Electric Comes to Town. And the song When a Miss Electric Comes to Town was kind of a guitar rocker that had a kind of real live feel. It was recorded using the keytar, Roland keytar through the Juno GI. And, I have a strong love for rock and punk. And so this song has a very, punk aesthetic, a lot like a Husker Du or Heavy Replacement, Paul Westerberg type recording, or Ball Mode, Grant Hart type of recording. And I've always tried to do my electronic music with a punk aesthetic. And so, the punk aesthetic is to, not overly produce something, kind of play it live, have it kind of heavy guitar focused with bass and drum. What I do that's a little different is I'll throw a little electronic analog goodness through Eurorack and atmospheric synthesis through my style of synthesizer creation, where I'll create tones on analog synths like the Moog Mother 32 and the Arturia Micro Mini Brute 2S and Eurorack modules, and use that as kind of like a sonic palette. In this song, that sonic palette is very low in the mix. What's higher in the mix is the guitar, the drums, and the bass. The bass is actually done using the analog part of a JDXI, which I find has really good bass tones. And I run them through effects through the MX1 and also through the Zoom R24. And then I have the Josephine Electric Vocal actually going through a VTO3. And I find the VTO3 is working really well for me. I used to use just the JDXI soprano vocoder, which I still like, and has a quality to my Josephine character's voice that's still, on a lot of recordings, a lot of Fam Electric Ghost recordings. Josephine's first appearance is using the JDXI soprano vocoder with a vocoder in soprano mode. And I find, that is where I originally found my Josephine voice. The VTO3 gives me a lot of different ways to enhance that voice with a slider-based pitch control and slider-based format control. A lot of different effects in terms of being able to do it like a radio sound, basically a loudspeaker type of effect, and different levels of reverberation. It's a very good machine. I'd like to see them expand its capabilities. The VTO3 would have been cool to actually integrate what's in the vocoder module for the boutique. So if it was a combination, well, maybe three things. If it had everything that's in the JDXI vocoder, plus what was released in the boutique module, the VPO3, and then, the VTO3. If all those three things would make a total vocal synth, that would be very interesting. And if it had, analog filter capabilities and envelope processing, kind of like if you took it into a System 500 and then it had those capabilities, that'd be a really cool machine. I think it'd be really cool. I don't know if Roland would take that on. Kind of mentioning today, Roland reintroduced the Axe synth, which had been out of production for a long time. A lot of keyboardists love that synth. It's probably the better keytars ever made. The only other one I think is really cool is the Moog keytar, which I think is still like a really awesome machine. Very hard to get. But the Roland original Axe was one of the better keytars out there, and it's been missing from the market for a long time, and I would love to see how it integrates. I am going to be getting a conference call on Bluetooth MIDI and how you can actually reintroduce that or introduce that into your system, because I'm wondering how could I bring in MIDI information from like an Arturia mini brute or like an MX, no, a System 1M or a Juno or anything that's got MIDI. Can you do Bluetooth MIDI control of non-Roland modules? And how do you introduce Bluetooth MIDI to a machine that doesn't have Bluetooth MIDI? Is there something that you could buy to create a Bluetooth like transmitter? Kind of like, I have been looking for these. I don't know, maybe I'm not looking in the right place. I'm looking for a general transmitter for MIDI that will allow you to take MIDI signals from instruments that support MIDI and put it into the Bluetooth zone, so that something like the new Roland Axe could control, a Eurorack or control a module other than a Roland module, which I know it will probably work very well with my Juno and my MX1 and my VTO3. It probably would work very good because those are already Roland products. I probably have that in mind. I'm kind of interested in how it would work in the non-Roland products if it, has the capability of doing that. So that's something going forward, because if you think about a song like this, why they go that way? Why they go there? This song is a heavy guitar-focused song, and now I play the guitar behind my big stack. And, when I film my shows, you see kind of like my back and see my keyboard. I kind of focus the shot on me playing the keyboard, but more from the back and from the side. What would be cool if I get the accent is you could actually do a forward kind of guitar kind of like shot, which is why people like guitar players. I think why the guitar is kind of like the preeminent instrument in America is the guitar hero. If you look at Page and Hendrix and Clapton, all the great guitar heroes, they're on the guitar. They can separate there. You can see them on stage. It's hard for keyboard players to get that kind of glory because you're behind a big stack of synths, and you'd be like Keith Emerson was very animated, and everybody could tell, he really made the performance interesting. And Stevie Wonder, genius. You can really make a performance interesting. You had Bruce Hornsby, Billy Joel. So there've been piano players that can kind of get that kind of glory. Elton John, don't want to forget him. But the guitar gives you kind of like that guitar kind of presence on a stage. And if you're actually using your synth to do guitar, which the Ghost has been doing for a long time, that using an axe with my guitar tones and doing the solos I rip through, visually would be very interesting and probably get me more fans if people can see that I'm doing that in a more, I would say a recognizable way, or a way people are comfortable seeing somebody do that. The other backlash could be that, people look at guitars, and maybe the reason the guitar was not to the forefront is people kind of look at that as being silly, or they don't like it, or they think, oh, what's he doing? But it kind of goes back to what do you do with that guitar? If you just do a typical synth lead, which is cool, people who are guitar focused aren't going to care about it as much. The electronic crowd will probably be into it. But if you're trying to branch out into that rock crowd, they're going to want to hear it sound like a guitar. And I have not really seen a lot of keyboardists do that. And that's kind of been what my kind of secret sauce to what the Ghost is I do a lot of guitar-focused music with synths. And it's because I was a frustrated guitar player, could never really learn how to get it. And I've been using the synths to replace that capability through the synthesizers. And so if you use a guitar in that method, then you kind of have the fans will be familiar with what that kind of looks like from having somebody with an instrument strapped onto them, that is more like what a guitar player does. And I think if you sound like a guitar player when you're doing that rather than a keyboard player, you'll get a lot of people who will be very interested. We've had a lot of good feedback at Ghost shows when people can't understand why the keyboards can sound like guitars. And that's been kind of our secret appeal, is that we can do that. And that has been something that we're very interested in. And, it's something that is really the focus of the Ghost, is to show that through expansive sound, which is my description of what we do, that this expansive sound music can encompass a lot of different concepts, and the concepts are doing guitar type of music, synth music, multiple genres. We like to blend rock, punk, jazz, classical all into one thing we call expansive sound. And that expansive sound, it doesn't have a limitation in terms of what you can do, with the music. The idea is that you can use the music to create, experiences. It's kind of like a Jimi Hendrix, he created the Jimi Hendrix experience. The idea was he was, talking about sound paintings and sonic landscapes. In that Electric Lady, I think it was described as a sound painting. And I use that all the time, and I kind of defer to Hendrix's interpretation. Is like the guitar doesn't just have to be a blues instrument. It can be a very atmospheric, expressive tool. And Hendrix used his guitar like a synth in a lot of ways. He could do very expansive sounds, calling in like seagulls and weird space noises, and this whole idea that he was very infatuated with like Neptune and Jupiter and the solar system and psychedelic mythology. There's a lot going on, time travel, space, comic books, along with the heavy blues influence. There was this kind of mysticism that included sci-fi and a lot of other things, and that's just interesting to be able to go there, and since kind of go there if you choose to do that. One of the things with synthesizers, a lot of people use them, and that's not a real big criticism, but they use them as background instruments to support the primary instruments of guitars, bass, and drum. And they're not really considered to be, leads. They're more, accompaniment, kind of build the sound. And it's, can be done in a way that kind of minimizes the importance of what a synthesizer can be. Because I believe synthesizers, if you look at Nine Inch Nails, you look at, Stevie Wonder, you look at the great synthesizer players, Keith Emerson, you bring it to the front. You bring what the synthesizers can do, and you make people really pay attention. And show that it's not just an instrument used for accompaniment. It can be as much of a lead as the guitar. I think the Moog, Mini Moog Model D really showed people that with the use of Funkadelic and Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They really show that it can be a lead instrument. But that's just using it for solos, and those are monophonic synths. When you get synths like the Prophet synths, which are polyphonic, or the Memory Moog, or polyphonic, or the Jupiter 8, you get like Duran Duran and the New Wave, where you see a lot of the New Romantics using the synths, Newman's Cars, using synths in a way that you can show they can be lead, and they can be set the tone. I mean, Prince was really good at doing that with 1999 when Doves Cry. A lot of his Minneapolis sound is taking funkadelic, taking rock, taking jazz and experimental music like Kraftwerk, and creating, more accessible funk. A lot of times James Brown funk and Parliament funk was, very long exercises like Grateful Dead jams, and that's cool. But what Prince's genius was is to actually shorten it into pop songs that use those funk techniques, and using the synths and the bass lines in that way. And it was brilliant. And we saw that with Sly and the Family Stone. We saw the idea of funk being more popular, being more concise. We see it with Earth, Wind, and Fire as well. So, he wasn't the only one to do that. But in the modern era, he was the one that kind of did it with a heavy rock focus, a Hendrixian Santana focus too, which I think find that very interesting and very, very cool to hear. One of the other things that we're doing now, we're kind of getting to the end of this song, which is, Consummate Creep, which is included in this broadcast, is we are accepting fan donations and support. We have indicated that, that if we identify people as our fans, we will provide them with downloads of unreleased material going forward, and that will be really cool. For those people, we will give them alternate versions, give people demos before they're fully released on our land our system. And so if we get supporters at any level right now, we will provide them with, if they provide an email address or a way to contact them on social media, we'll provide them with download information that they can take the WAV files and they can get the MP3s directly sent to them. And that would be, I think, pretty cool for people if they're into us to be able to get that kind of stuff. We have multiple delivery methods for that. And so, you know, if you have an email address, we'll be able to give you that through a Google Drive link. We could give it to you through other ways of doing it. And so it will be, you know, a way to support the Ghost and not just support us and not get anything. You can actually get material. So our voice is going a little bit, so we're gonna end this now, and we'll talk to you tonight. Or you can hear us tonight. We're gonna talk to Kenda Erica, top 10 Billboard artist. We talked to her previously on Sparing. This is our second interview. It's our first interview on Anchor, and we'll be talking to her tonight. Thanks.